Have you ever noticed how the things we hold onto the tightest are often the very things that hurt us most? What if the real weight we carry isn't what's happening now, but what we refuse to let go of? And could it be that the greatest act of strength isn't holding on ... but releasing what no longer serves us? Letting go, it sounds so simple when you say it out loud, doesn't it? But in reality, it's anything but easy. It's one of those deceptively straightforward ideas that, when it comes time to act on it, can feel like climbing a mountain barefoot. Whether it's a relationship we've outgrown, a past experience we can't stop replaying, or a chaotic situation we wish we could fix, letting go often feels like tearing away a piece of our identity. But here's the truth. Clinging too tightly can actually cause more pain than releasing ever will. Holding on drains our energy, clouds our vision, and keeps us locked in a cycle of suffering. Letting go isn't about walking away from life or giving up. It's about breaking free from the invisible chains of emotional attachment. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes a guiding light. At the heart of Stoicism is a powerful principle: knowing the difference between what's in our control and what isn't. By accepting this distinction, we gain the clarity and inner strength to stop investing energy in what we cannot change. In this episode, we'll dive deep into how to let go, not just as a concept, but as a practice. You'll learn how to release people, situations, and mental baggage through the lens of Stoic philosophy and insights from modern psychology. We'll talk about the true meaning of emotional detachment, how to create space for mental clarity, and why healthy boundaries are essential for peace of mind. Letting go isn't an act of defeat, it's an act of self-liberation. So how do we begin this process in a world that constantly pulls at our attention and emotions? Let's explore that next. Letting go, as we've seen, isn't about giving up, it's about creating space for what truly matters. When we release what weighs us down, we don't lose control. We gain clarity, energy, and the freedom to realign with our purpose. By the end of this journey, you'll have practical tools to release emotional burdens and move forward with more peace, focus, and resilience. So let's begin with Lesson 1. Unlocking the power of detachment. When we first hear the word detachment, it can sound cold, distant, even uncaring. Many people assume it means turning off emotions, withdrawing from life, or becoming indifferent to everything around us. But that's a misunderstanding. Detachment is not the absence of emotion. It's the presence of emotional freedom. It means we no longer feel the desperate need to control things outside our power. It's the inner strength to remain calm even when the world around us feels chaotic. In fact, detachment is a form of mastery, not over others, but over ourselves. More often than not, attachment is rooted in fear, the fear of losing someone, something, or even a version of ourselves. Ironically, the tighter we grip onto what we fear losing, the more power it holds over us. We begin to link our happiness to things we can't control: someone's opinion, an unpredictable outcome, or possessions that may one day be gone. And so, when those things inevitably shift or disappear, we suffer. Stoic philosophy offers a liberating truth. Freedom doesn't come from controlling the world. It comes from changing how we respond to it. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." That wisdom still holds today. True detachment doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we stop clinging. It's about accepting life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you squeeze it too tightly, most of it slips through your fingers. But if you hold it gently, it stays in your palm. That's the essence of detachment, holding life's experiences lightly, without allowing them to define your inner peace. So, how can you begin to unlock this power in your own life? Start by asking yourself, what am I holding on to that's draining my peace? It could be a relationship where you feel responsible for someone else's happiness. Or maybe a work situation where you're constantly trying to control every detail. Perhaps it's a memory from the past that still lingers like a shadow. The first step is awareness, recognizing what you're attached to. The second is mindful acceptance. This doesn't mean passive surrender. It means acknowledging what is out of your hands and choosing how you respond to it. Let's say, someone's behavior continues to upset you. Instead of trying to change them, you shift your focus to setting boundaries and managing your own emotional reactions. You can still care deeply for someone without sacrificing your peace. Here's a simple yet powerful daily practice. Take 5 minutes to reflect on one thing that's been causing you stress. Ask yourself, is this within my control, or do I need to let it go? If it's outside your control, repeat to yourself, I choose to let go of what I cannot control. It's a small habit, but it rewires your thinking. It teaches your mind to stop carrying what was never yours to carry in the first place. Then ask yourself honestly, am I holding on out of love or out of fear? Fear-based attachment traps us. Healthy detachment, on the other hand, frees us. Creates space for clarity, growth, and inner calm. And remember, detachment doesn't mean abandoning your duties or turning your back on people. It's about protecting your emotional well-being, staying grounded, and not allowing life's ups and downs to shake your core. When you live with detachment, you show up more fully, not less. You begin to act, not react. You begin to live with calm, not chaos. Now that we've uncovered the power of detachment, the next essential step is learning how to create space for perspective, for calm, and for clarity. Because once you release what you can't control, you begin to live with deeper purpose and inner peace. This brings us to Lesson 2. Stepping back for mental clarity. When life feels like it's closing in on you, when stress builds, emotions surge, and your thoughts start spiraling, it's all too easy to get caught up in the chaos. In these moments, we tend to react on impulse, make decisions we later regret, or let anxiety take the driver's seat. But there's a powerful practice that can transform how you respond in those very moments: stepping back. Now don't confuse stepping back with avoidance. It's not about running away from problems. It's about consciously creating space between your emotions and your actions. That space is where clarity lives. That space is where wise choices are born. Think about this. In the middle of a heated moment, everything can feel like an emergency. Your heart races, thoughts come rushing in, emotions take over, and suddenly you feel like you have to act now. But what if instead you paused, even briefly? A pause, whether physical, emotional, or mental, gives your mind room to breathe. It's in that pause that everything begins to shift. Imagine a painter who's standing too close to their canvas. All they can see are the tiny brush strokes, the flaws, the smudges. But when they step back, they finally see the painting as a whole. The perspective changes. The imperfections fade into the bigger picture. We're the same. When we take a step back, we stop seeing life through a fog of emotion. We start seeing things as they truly are, not worse than they are, not scarier, not more urgent. Just real. And stepping back can be simple. It can be as small as taking a deep breath, going for a walk, sitting quietly with your journal. These little actions give your nervous system a chance to calm down. They help your mind settle so you can think clearly and choose how to respond, rather than getting swept up in a reaction. This is what Stoicism teaches us, that clarity comes from calmness. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Stepping back is how you reclaim that power. It's how you protect your inner world, even when the outer world is spinning fast. Here's a practical tool to try the next time you feel overwhelmed. Practice the pause technique. Before you respond to anything, whether it's a stressful conversation, a difficult email, or a triggering event, pause. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. Close your eyes if you need to. Then ask yourself, what's the wisest response here? Not the fastest, not the easiest, but the one that reflects who I want to be. Another powerful habit is something called perspective journaling. When your emotions are high, take 5 to 10 minutes to write about the situation as if you were giving advice to a close friend. This subtle shift in voice allows you to detach from the storm and see the bigger picture. Ask yourself, am I too close to this to think clearly? If the answer is yes, then honor that awareness. Give yourself permission to step back. Let time and reflection clear the fog that not every situation needs an immediate response. In fact, some of the wisest actions emerge only after the emotional wave has passed. So, remember this. Stepping back is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's the discipline of choosing reflection over reaction, clarity over chaos. And when you make this a habit, something powerful happens. You begin to face life with calm steadiness. You stop being thrown off course by every challenge. You start seeing problems as temporary bumps, not as permanent blocks. This practice, this art of pausing, gives you back your life. It helps you make decisions with intention, not panic. And over time, peace of mind becomes your default, not your exception. Even when life feels chaotic on the outside, we've learned that stepping back gives us clarity. But sometimes, gaining clarity also means stepping away, especially from people or situations that constantly drain us. This leads us to Lesson 3. Deciding when to distance yourself. One of the hardest decisions we face is knowing when it's time to create space, especially from people we care about, environments we've grown used to, or habits that feel familiar but no longer serve us. Whether it's a draining relationship, a toxic workplace, or even a personal behavior that keeps pulling you backward, staying too long can quietly erode your emotional well-being. But how do you know when the time has come to step back? And even more importantly, how do you do it in a way that protects your peace while staying true to your values? The very first step is self-awareness. Take an honest look at the situation and ask yourself, is this helping me grow, or is it holding me back? Not all discomfort is bad. Sometimes growth is uncomfortable. But there's a difference between challenges that stretch you and patterns that slowly deplete you. If you consistently walk away from someone or something feeling anxious, unappreciated, or small, that's a signal. It may be time to consider putting some distance in place. Still, many of us hesitate. Why? Because of guilt. We feel responsible for how others will feel. We worry that distancing ourselves makes us selfish or uncaring. But here's a crucial truth. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it's self-preservation. Stoic wisdom reminds us that while we can't control the behavior of others, we can always choose our own response. Epictetus once said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. That includes choosing peace over pleasing and values over guilt. Distancing yourself isn't an act of cruelty. It's an act of courage. It's about protecting your mental and emotional space so you can live with integrity, not resentment. It's also important to reflect on your core values. Ask yourself, does staying in this relationship or situation reflect who I want to be? Too often, we remain stuck out of habit, fear, or the false belief that change equals failure. But if staying means betraying your own well-being or compromising your character, it's time to reconsider. Remember, creating distance does not mean you're abandoning someone. It means you're choosing to honor yourself. You're choosing growth, not guilt. Once you've made the decision to take a step back, it doesn't always require a dramatic exit. Most of the time, it's best to do it quietly and respectfully. There's no need for heated confrontations unless the situation truly calls for it. Simply reducing the time, energy, or attention you give can create enough distance to restore your balance. Here's a simple but powerful exercise. Try a trial separation. Choose a specific period, maybe 2 weeks, where you intentionally limit your interaction with the person or environment. During that time, pay attention to how you feel. Are you calmer? Clearer? Do you feel a weight lifted? Or do you genuinely miss that connection? This small step can give you powerful clarity. Ask yourself, am I staying out of love or out of obligation? If your answer leans more toward guilt or fear, it may be time to let go. And always remember, you can love someone and still choose boundaries. You can care deeply while still stepping back to protect your energy. Distance doesn't erase love or respect. In fact, it preserves them by making sure your care doesn't come at the cost of your inner peace. In some cases, silent space is enough. But in others, especially when the relationship is meaningful and worth saving, it may require a direct and honest conversation. Don't be afraid to communicate how you feel and what you need. In many cases, it's not about cutting ties, it's about redefining the relationship in a way that allows both people to grow. Ultimately, deciding when to distance yourself is about honoring your own growth, your values, and your peace. It's not about blame. It's not about resentment. It's about consciously choosing what lifts you, rather than what weighs you down. When you release what no longer supports your journey, you make space for healthier relationships, new opportunities, and a life that reflects who you truly are. Now that we've explored the courage it takes to create distance when necessary, there's another side to emotional well-being we must not forget: the healing power of meaningful connection. This brings us to lesson 4, building trust through meaningful conversations. When life feels overwhelming and your thoughts are spinning in circles, one of the most powerful ways to regain clarity and emotional relief is to have an honest, heartfelt conversation with someone you trust. Human connection isn't just a comfort, it's a gateway to insight, healing, and personal growth. Sharing openly with someone who truly listens can help you process tangled emotions, shift your perspective, and sometimes even uncover solutions you wouldn't have found alone. But here's something important to understand: not every conversation creates trust. Not every exchange leads to connection. Shallow dialogue or interactions filled with judgment rarely open the door to healing. Trust grows in spaces where conversations are honest, vulnerable, and free from criticism. It's about creating an environment where both people feel safe to speak and be heard without fear of being misunderstood. And just as important as speaking is listening. Deep, present, non-judgmental listening is a rare gift, and it's the foundation of meaningful connection. In Stoic philosophy, open and thoughtful dialogue was considered essential for growth. The Stoics believed in engaging with others who challenged their thinking, not with hostility, but with respect and curiosity. Seneca famously wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." In other words, seek out those who elevate your thinking and encourage your evolution, not just those who agree with you. True connection is not built through venting alone. It's created through conversations that help you reflect, learn, and evolve. To build trust through conversation, it's essential to create an atmosphere of mutual respect and empathy. That means listening without interrupting. It means validating someone's emotions, even if you don't fully understand them. Often, people don't need a solution, they just need to feel heard. A simple, sincere statement like, "I understand how you feel," or "I'm here for you," can deepen trust more than any advice ever could. And when you feel lost or uncertain, don't be afraid to reach out. Talk to a trusted friend, a mentor, or even a professional counselor. The act of putting your thoughts into words not only brings mental clarity, but also invites new perspectives that you might not have reached on your own. However, be intentional about who you choose to open up to. Make sure that the person you share with honors your boundaries, listens without judgment, and holds space for your vulnerability. Here's a simple, practical exercise. Identify one or two people in your life whom you deeply trust. The next time you're feeling overwhelmed or mentally stuck, reach out to them. You might say something like, "I've been carrying something heavy, and I could really use your perspective or just a listening ear." Framing the conversation this way lets them know you're not looking for solutions, just connection. Likewise, be open to holding space when someone else needs to talk. Trust is a two-way street. It's built over time through consistent acts of care, presence, and empathy. When someone shares their struggles with you, practice being fully present. Listen with your heart, not just your ears. Resist the urge to fix, and instead, offer support and understanding. This kind of exchange builds a strong foundation of mutual trust that can carry both people through difficult seasons. Ask yourself, do I have people in my life with whom I can share this kind of meaningful conversation? If yes, nurture those relationships. Water them with time, presence, and honesty. If not, consider expanding your circle. Look into communities, support groups, or professional networks where authentic dialogue is encouraged and valued. Trust isn't built in a day. It's built moment by moment through acts of vulnerability, through empathy, through the willingness to show up for each other without judgment. And when you engage in meaningful conversations, you do more than find clarity, you create lasting bonds that become your emotional anchor when life feels uncertain. After exploring how meaningful conversations can bring connection, clarity, and emotional relief, we now shift to something just as essential for your well-being: the art of emotional boundaries. This brings us to Lesson 5, Mastering Emotional Boundaries. Have you ever found yourself feeling weighed down not by your own problems, but by someone else's stress, anxiety, or emotional chaos? As if their emotions somehow became your own. You're not alone. Many people unknowingly absorb the emotional energy of those around them. Without realizing it, they carry weight that was never theirs to hold. That's where emotional boundaries come in, those invisible but vital lines that protect your emotional space from becoming tangled with someone else's. But let's be clear, mastering emotional boundaries doesn't mean shutting people out. It doesn't mean you stop caring. On the contrary, it means learning how to care without collapsing. It's about offering support and compassion without sacrificing your inner peace in the process. When you set healthy emotional boundaries, you're not being cold or distant. You're protecting your own energy so you can show up more fully and sustainably for others. You can be empathetic without being emotionally consumed. Why is this so important? Because without boundaries, you risk absorbing emotions that were never yours to carry. You may begin to feel overwhelmed, exhausted, resentful, or even lose sight of where your feelings end and someone else's begin. Over time, this emotional blurring can strain relationships and erode your sense of self. Stoic philosophy reminds us that while we may care deeply about others, we must remain guardians of our inner world. As Epictetus put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And that truth extends beyond events. It applies to emotions, especially the ones we absorb from others. You may not be able to control how someone else feels, but you can control how much you let their emotions affect your inner peace. The first step to mastering emotional boundaries is awareness. Start by observing your emotional state. Ask yourself, is this emotion truly mine, or have I picked it up from someone else? Recognizing when you've taken on someone else's emotional load is the first sign that a boundary may have been crossed. Next comes communication. And here's the key: it doesn't need to be confrontational. In fact, healthy boundary setting is often gentle but clear. Let's say a friend often turns to you to unload their stress, and you notice it leaves you feeling mentally drained. You could say, "I care about you and I want to support you, but I also need to take care of my own energy. Can we keep this chat brief today?" This is respectful, honest, and still supportive. It's not rejection. It's a clear signal of self-respect. Another powerful technique is visualization. The next time you're in a conversation or space where emotions are running high, imagine a gentle barrier around you. Picture it like a clear, protective dome. Emotions can pass through, but only those you choose to let in. This helps your mind understand that you can witness someone's pain without absorbing it. Here's a practical exercise to try. The next time someone's emotions start to overwhelm you, pause. Take a deep breath. Then silently remind yourself, their emotions are theirs. I can care without carrying. Then ground yourself. Do a breathing exercise. Take a short walk. Journal your feelings to separate your own emotions from the ones you've absorbed. And ask yourself honestly, am I sacrificing my emotional well-being to support others? If the answer is yes, it's time to draw a line. Not from selfishness, but from self-respect. When you protect your emotional energy, you don't become less available to others, you actually become more effective at showing up with presence and compassion without burning out. Also keep in mind, boundaries need to be reinforced. Some people may push against them. They may not understand or respect them at first. But that doesn't make your boundaries wrong. Stand firm. The more consistently you uphold your emotional limits, the more others will learn to honor them, and the more you'll honor yourself. Mastering emotional boundaries isn't about building walls. It's about creating space where your own emotions are safe, and where you can care for others without losing yourself. And when you learn to protect your emotional center, something beautiful happens. You become steady, centered, and emotionally resilient, even in the face of turbulence. When you honor your emotional boundaries, You begin to live with clarity and balance. You're no longer overwhelmed by emotions that aren't yours to carry. Instead, you reclaim your peace, your strength, and your center. And sometimes, in order to protect that peace, you must make a difficult choice, the decision to create. Distance. This brings us to lesson 6, weighing the outcomes of separation. There are points in life when stepping away from certain people, situations, or environments becomes not just helpful, but essential for your well-being. Still, making that decision is never easy. It often comes with hesitation, emotional conflict, and fear of what might happen next. That's why it's so important to pause and reflect, to ensure that your decision to distance yourself isn't reactive, but intentional. It's not about escaping discomfort, but about choosing growth, clarity, and peace of mind. Sometimes, separation means ending a toxic relationship. Other times, it might involve leaving a draining job, or slowly stepping back from a long-term friendship that no longer aligns with your values. Whatever the situation, one truth remains: such decisions carry weight, not just for you, but for those around you. So, how can you approach this wisely? Start by evaluating the emotional impact. Ask yourself honestly, how do I feel on a daily basis when I remain in this situation? If the answer is consistently stress, tension, resentment, or emotional fatigue, that's a clear signal that change may be necessary. Then, consider your long-term well-being. Does staying here contribute to your growth, or is it slowly wearing you down? Does this relationship, environment, or habit align with the future you want to create? The Stoics remind us to act with intention and reflection. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Much of the fear we associate with separation comes not from what's real, but from imagined worst-case scenarios. That's why grounding yourself in actual outcomes, rather than emotional fear, can lead to wiser decisions. Also, be honest about potential losses. Every separation involves some form of letting go, whether emotional, social, or even financial. But ask yourself, is this loss worth the peace, energy, and alignment I'll gain in return? Often, short-term discomfort is the necessary cost of long-term peace. And keep this in mind, not every separation needs to be absolute. In many cases, simply creating space rather than cutting ties can be enough. For example, if a relationship is draining but not toxic, you may choose to reduce how often you interact, or keep conversations lighter and more surface level. This soft distancing protects your well-being without necessarily ending the relationship entirely. Here's a simple yet powerful practical tool. Try a pros and cons reflection. Take a piece of paper and divide it into 2 columns. On one side, list the benefits of staying. On the other, list the benefits of creating distance. By seeing the trade-offs laid out visually, you allow logic and clarity to guide your next step. Then ask yourself, am I staying because I truly want to, or because I fear the consequences of leaving? If fear is your main motivator, pause and reflect. Often, the fear of change is louder than the reality of the change itself. And once you take that step, you might realize that what you feared wasn't nearly as overwhelming as you imagined. Remember, weighing the outcomes of separation isn't about finding a perfect solution. It's about choosing the path that supports your mental, emotional, and personal growth. There's no path without discomfort, but there's a path that honors your truth. Letting go is rarely easy, but sometimes it's exactly what you need To move forward. After you've taken the courageous step to let go of what no longer serves you, something beautiful begins to happen. You create space for new opportunities, deeper relationships, and a more authentic version of yourself to emerge, one that is lighter, freer, and more at peace. That same principle applies to one of the most overlooked areas of modern life, our relationship with social media. This brings us to lesson 7. Detoxing from social media. In today's world, social media is woven into almost every aspect of daily life. It connects us, entertains us, and keeps us informed. But if we're not careful, it can also quietly consume us. One scroll becomes another, and suddenly, hours pass in a haze of comparison, distraction, and overst. We compare our behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. We chase likes and notifications, mistaking them for validation. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, our inner world becomes cluttered, not with physical noise, but with digital noise. That's why detoxing from social media is so powerful. Now, this doesn't mean abandoning it completely or deleting every app forever. Instead, it's about reclaiming control over your time, your focus, and your peace of mind. One of the main problems with excessive social media use is that it keeps your brain in a state of constant stimulation. Every ping, comment, and update delivers a tiny dopamine hit, training your mind to crave more. Over time, this rewires your nervous system. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Stillness starts to feel like something's missing. But true peace doesn't come from endless stimulation. It comes from presence, from stillness, from learning to be content with your own thoughts and grounded in your own experience. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You must reclaim yourself for yourself. The world distracts you with many things. Focus on a few that matter and let the rest go." That wisdom couldn't be more relevant today. When used with intention, social media can be a tool. But when used unconsciously, it pulls us away from what matters most: real relationships, inner calm, and meaningful growth. So how do we detox? What does it look like in practice? For some people, it might mean taking a full break, stepping away from all platforms for a few days or weeks. For others, it's about setting boundaries, limiting usage to specific times of the day, or unfollowing accounts that trigger anxiety or self-doubt. The goal isn't perfection. It's balance. Start by identifying your triggers. Notice when you instinctively reach for your phone. Is it boredom? Stress? Habit? Once you understand your patterns, you can replace them with healthier alternatives like journaling, going for a walk, meditating, or simply sitting with your thoughts. These small changes help rebuild your attention span and mental clarity. Next, set clear boundaries. Designate specific times to check social media instead of letting it fill every free moment. Maybe you choose to check only in the evening or skip mornings entirely. Creating structure reduces the endless, reactive scrolling that eats up your energy. Then, curate your feed. Unfollow anyone who leaves you feeling less than, whether that's because of comparison, negativity, or toxic messaging. Follow accounts that inspire, educate, or bring joy. Your digital environment should uplift your mindset, not drain it. Here's a practical challenge. Try a 24-hour social media detox. For one full day, avoid all platforms. Instead, engage with the world around you. Connect with loved ones. Dive into a creative project. Spend time outdoors. At the end of the day, reflect. Did you truly miss anything important? Or did you feel more present, more calm, more connected to real life? Ask yourself, am I using social media or is it using me? If you find it's consuming more energy than you're comfortable with, it's time to build healthier boundaries. Remember, a digital detox isn't about isolation, it's about reconnection with yourself, with others, with the world right in front of you. By reducing digital noise, you open the door to richer conversations, deeper experiences, and greater emotional clarity. You begin to live not through a screen, but fully and intentionally in the here and now. And when you regain control over your attention, you begin to reclaim your peace. You let go of distraction and comparison, and you make room for what truly matters. After learning how to reclaim your time and presence by detoxing from social media, it's time to turn inward and reconnect with something even more essential: your core needs. This brings us to Lesson 8. Prioritizing your core needs. In the fast pace of everyday life, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. Work deadlines, social expectations, and constant distractions begin to pull you in every direction until one day you realize you've been running on empty. But here's a fundamental truth: if you don't prioritize your core needs, no one else will. Understanding what genuinely sustains you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually isn't just helpful, it's essential. It's the foundation of a life that feels aligned, meaningful, and whole. But first, it's important to distinguish between wants and needs. Wants are fleeting desires like entertainment, recognition, or material things. They offer short-term pleasure but rarely bring lasting fulfillment. Core needs, on the other hand, are deeper. They're the things that ground you, uplift you, and energize your spirit. They're non-negotiable. Your core needs might include meaningful relationships, quality rest, creative expression, quiet time for reflection, or being in nature. These are the things that, when neglected, leave you feeling drained, disconnected, or even lost. The wisdom of Stoic philosophy reminds us to return to what's essential. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This isn't just about material simplicity. It's about focusing your energy on what truly nourishes your inner world. So, how do you begin to prioritize your core needs? Start by asking yourself, what activities or experiences make me feel most alive, centered, and at peace? Maybe it's time spent with loved ones. Maybe it's a quiet morning walk. Maybe it's creating something with your hands or resting without guilt. These are signals pointing to your inner compass. Once you've identified these needs, the next step is to intentionally create space for them. This might look like blocking off time each day for self-care, saying no to commitments that don't align with your values, or setting boundaries between your personal time and professional obligations. And here's something important: prioritizing your needs is not selfish, it's necessary. When your needs are met, you're not just better for yourself, you become more present, patient, and available for others too. Here's a practical exercise to get started. Write down your top 5 core needs. For each one, identify one small action you can take this week to honor it. For example, if rest is a need, commit to going to bed 30 minutes earlier. If creativity is a need, block out an hour to work on a personal project. If connection is a need, schedule uninterrupted time with someone you care about. The key is to start small and build consistency. Progress is not about perfection, it's about direction. Then reflect. Am I living in a way that honors my core needs? Or am I constantly sacrificing them to meet external expectations? If your answer leans toward the latter, pause. Remind yourself. No achievement, no praise, no external reward can replace the fulfillment that comes from meeting your true needs. Also, let go of the guilt. Many people feel uneasy when they take time for themselves, as if they're neglecting others. But in reality, self-care is what makes sustainable care for others possible. It's not indulgent. It's foundational. When you prioritize your well-being, everything else in your life rises to meet it. You begin to show up from a place of wholeness, not depletion. You stop chasing what drains you and start living in alignment with what truly fills you. Because life isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters. And when you begin honoring your deepest needs, you lay the groundwork for a life of clarity, balance, and quiet strength. When you begin to honor your core needs, you don't just improve the quality of your life, you deepen it. You become more present, more resilient, and more aligned with your purpose. And from that place, life becomes something more than just a series of obligations. It becomes something to truly experience and enjoy. That leads us to lesson 9, embracing gratitude and the present moment. In a world that constantly pushes us to chase more success, more recognition, more possessions, it's easy to fall into a cycle of focusing on what's missing. We compare, we strive, we measure ourselves against others. And in doing so, we overlook what's already here. This constant reaching often leads not to satisfaction, but to anxiety, restlessness, and the quiet feeling that nothing is ever enough. But there's a powerful antidote to this mindset, one that is simple, accessible, and transformative. Gratitude. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean ignoring life's difficulties or pretending everything is perfect. It's not about putting on a smile and forcing optimism. Instead, gratitude is about learning to recognize the good that already exists, even in the middle of hardship. It's about pausing to appreciate the small, meaningful moments. A warm breeze, a kind word, a quiet morning, or simply the chance to be here for another day. When you focus on what you do have, rather than what you don't, you shift your mindset from lack to abundance, from striving to being. And in that shift, something changes inside you. A quiet peace replaces the endless pursuit. The Stoics deeply understood this truth. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not dwell on the past or dream of the future, but concentrate the mind on the present moment." For the Stoics, true contentment didn't come from achievements or acquisitions. It came from presence, from being fully engaged with the here and now, without needing anything more than this moment. Gratitude, then, becomes more than just a feel-good practice. It becomes a way of grounding yourself in the present, of reminding yourself that, even when life is messy or uncertain, there is always something to be thankful for. And it doesn't have to be complicated. One of the simplest and most powerful practices is this. At the beginning or end of each day, take a few quiet moments to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. In fact, it's often the smallest details that bring the most peace: a hot cup of tea, a good night's sleep, a moment of laughter. Over time, this habit rewires your mind. It teaches you to notice the good, even when life feels heavy. Beyond gratitude, embracing the present moment also means letting go of the past and releasing your grip on the future. The past cannot be changed. The future cannot be predicted. The only place where your power truly lies is in the present. Right here, right now, your thoughts, your breath, your choices in this moment, that's where your life is actually happening. So, here's a practical exercise. The next time you're feeling overwhelmed or distracted, pause. Take one slow, intentional breath. Then look around. Find one thing, anything you can genuinely appreciate in that moment. It could be the sunlight filtering through a window, the warmth of your hands, or the strength it took just to show up today. That one act of mindful gratitude can soften the noise in your mind and return you to center. Ask yourself, am I spending more time focusing on what's missing or appreciating what's already here? If you realize you've been leaning toward the former, don't judge yourself. Just redirect. Gratitude doesn't cancel your goals or dreams. It simply creates space for contentment to exist alongside your ambitions. And another way to stay grounded is through mindfulness, being fully present in what you're doing, whether it's breathing deeply, washing dishes, or eating a meal. Notice the sensations, the sounds, the textures. These tiny moments, when fully lived, begin to color life with richness and calm. Because life isn't lived in the past, and it doesn't begin in some perfect future. It's happening now, in this breath, in this moment. By practicing gratitude and anchoring yourself in the present, you free yourself from the endless chase for more and start finding joy in what already is. You begin to understand life may never be perfect, but it can always be beautiful if you take the time to notice it. Gratitude and presence, as we've just explored, are not merely habits, they're mindsets. And when you learn to live with appreciation and awareness, you anchor yourself in what truly matters. But even with that grounding, life has a way of throwing curveballs. And when it does, one quality becomes essential above all: flexibility. That leads us to lesson 10, cultivating flexibility and adaptability. Life, by its very nature, is unpredictable. You can plan everything down to the last detail, map out your goals with precision, and work tirelessly to stay in control, and still, life will surprise you. Whether it's a sudden change in circumstances, an unexpected obstacle, or an opportunity disguised as a detour, your ability to adapt is what determines whether you thrive or merely survive. Now let's be clear. Cultivating flexibility doesn't mean giving up on your goals or lowering your standards. It means learning how to shift your strategy, to remain calm in the face of uncertainty, and to grow through every challenge, not just get through it. Many people resist change because it feels uncomfortable. We're wired to seek stability, predictability, and control. But the truth is, when you resist change, you don't avoid suffering, you amplify it. You stay stuck in how things should be, rather than embracing how they are. And that gap between expectation and reality is where frustration, anxiety, and helplessness often take root. But when you cultivate flexibility, you begin to move with life rather than against it. You stop clinging to rigid plans and start discovering new paths, new approaches, and even unexpected strengths within yourself. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is the essence of adaptability, not avoiding change, but mastering your response to it. When you accept that change as a constant, you free yourself from the suffering of resistance. You remain grounded, clear, and calm even in the middle of a storm. But how do you actually become more flexible? It starts with a mindset shift. Instead of seeing change as a threat, begin to see it as an invitation, a chance to learn something new, to test your resilience, or to find a better way forward. Ask yourself, what lesson might be hidden in this? How could this challenge help? me grow? This shift in perspective creates space for creativity, curiosity, and peace, even when the situation itself is difficult. Another vital piece of flexibility is emotional resilience. Change often brings up strong emotions, fear, frustration, disappointment. But being flexible doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It means acknowledging those emotions, pausing long enough to process them, and then choosing your next step with intention, not impulse. Here's a practical strategy you can use in real time: the 3 A's. Accept the situation. Fighting reality won't undo it. Assess your options. What's within your control? What isn't? Adapt by taking thoughtful action based on the new landscape in front of you. This simple process helps you stay centered and responsive rather than reactive and overwhelmed. You can also reflect with this question: am I holding on to something that no longer serves me? Or am I willing to pivot and move forward with purpose? If you're clinging to what's familiar simply out of fear, that may be the very thing holding you back from peace, growth, or progress. It's important to remember flexibility is not weakness. It's one of the greatest forms of strength. It's the ability to bend without breaking, to adjust without losing your sense of self. Think of trees in a storm. The ones that sway with the wind don't snap. They survive because they're rooted, but not rigid. Likewise, when you cultivate flexibility in your own life, you allow yourself to evolve with the world instead of resisting it. You stay true to your purpose while remaining open to how the path unfolds. And in doing so, you not only reduce suffering, you increase your chances of success, growth, and lasting inner peace. When you embrace flexibility and adaptability, you stop wasting energy resisting life's inevitable changes. You begin to move forward with calm and clarity, anchored in what you can control: your mindset, your choices, and your ability to grow through every storm. And from that inner strength comes something even more powerful: the ability to turn your focus outward. This leads us to Lesson 11, fostering empathy and generosity. In today's fast-paced, achievement-driven world, the focus is often on personal success, climbing higher, achieving more, proving ourselves. And in that rush, it becomes all too easy to overlook two of the most powerful forces for connection and meaning: empathy and generosity. But here's the truth: these aren't signs of weakness. They are quiet expressions of strength, dignity, and self-respect. They don't take away from your power, they expand it. Empathy is the ability to truly understand and share another person's experience. It's not just nodding along or offering quick advice. It's listening without judgment, holding space without rushing to fix, and letting someone know you are seen, you are heard, and you matter. When you cultivate empathy, your relationships deepen. People feel safe around you. They trust you. And trust, especially in a world full of distractions, is one of the most valuable currencies we have. Even in Stoic philosophy, which emphasizes inner strength and personal discipline, empathy is not ignored. In fact, Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What benefits the whole benefits the individual." That wisdom reminds us, when we uplift others, we uplift ourselves. Supporting others doesn't weaken your path, it strengthens your humanity. And then there's generosity. True generosity isn't just about giving money or material things. It's about offering your time, your attention, your patience, and your kindness. It's choosing to be present when someone needs you. It's sharing what you know without needing recognition. Real generosity flows from a place of abundance, not obligation. It doesn't say, "I have to." It says, "I can and I choose to." And when you give freely without expecting anything in return, you begin to dissolve scarcity thinking. You stop focusing on what you lack and start seeing what you have to offer. Take a moment to reflect. When was the last time you gave something, your time, your ear, your encouragement, without expecting anything back? These small acts of giving have ripple effects. They lift the person receiving, but they also uplift you. They reconnect you to purpose. But here's an important reminder. Empathy and generosity don't mean neglecting yourself. In fact, empathy starts with self-compassion. If you're constantly giving to others while ignoring your own needs, burnout and resentment are inevitable. That's why being generous with yourself, offering grace when you fall short, forgiving your own mistakes, and treating yourself with patience is just as vital. Generosity also shifts your perspective outward. When you're stuck in anxiety or stress, giving to others, whether through volunteering, mentoring, or simply being kind, can lighten your emotional load. It reminds you that your life has value not just in what you achieve, but in how you impact those around you. Generosity creates a positive feedback loop. The more you give, the more connected and grounded you feel. Here's a practical challenge for this week. Find one opportunity each day to practice a small act of empathy or generosity. It might be as simple as giving someone your full attention. In conversation, helping a friend without being asked, or sending a kind message to someone going through a tough time. These little moments matter. Repeated over time, they form the habits that shape your character and enrich your relationships. Ask yourself regularly, am I approaching this interaction with empathy, or from my own narrow perspective? If you notice yourself slipping into self-centeredness, pause, breathe. Try to see the situation through the other person's eyes. That one small shift can change not only the conversation, but the relationship itself. Remember, empathy and generosity aren't about grand gestures. They're about how you show up in everyday moments with kindness, patience, and presence. When these qualities become part of your everyday life, you create a deeper sense of fulfillment. You cultivate peace, and you begin to measure your life not by how much you've acquired, but by how much you've contributed. After exploring the quiet power of empathy and generosity, it becomes clear a life of connection and contribution must be built on something even more fundamental: your own strength. And that strength comes from the way you care for the vessel carrying you through life, your mind and body. This brings us to lesson 12, nourishing your mind and body. In a world that constantly pulls at your attention, demanding your time, energy, and mental bandwidth, it's easy to put your own well-being last. The deadlines, the notifications, the responsibilities, they all pile up. And slowly, without even noticing, you begin to trade your inner peace for external productivity. But the truth is, you cannot thrive without care. Nourishing your mind and body isn't a luxury. It's a non-negotiable foundation for a balanced, resilient, and fulfilling life. Think about it. When your body is tired, your mind can't focus. When your mind is overwhelmed, your body tenses, your energy dips, and your motivation fades. That's because mental and physical well-being are deeply connected. Caring for one always benefits the other. It starts with the body. Moving regularly, eating nourishing foods, and resting deeply. These are not just physical acts. They directly influence how you think, how you feel, and how you respond to life's challenges. Seneca said it best, a sound mind in a sound body is a short but full description of a happy state in this world. The Stoics understood that a disciplined approach to caring for the body was essential to cultivating inner strength. When your body is cared for, your mind becomes clearer, calmer, and more capable. But nourishment doesn't stop with the body. Your mind also needs intentional care beyond scrolling, beyond constant input. True mental nourishment comes from ideas that stretch you, silence that centers you, and practices that anchor you in presence. It's not just about what you consume, it's about what you choose to consume. Ask yourself, what habits do I currently have that truly nourish me, and which ones are quietly draining me? Maybe it's the late nights spent lost in endless social media loops. They seem harmless in the moment, but over time they erode your sleep, your focus, and your energy. In contrast, small choices like prioritizing rest, taking daily walks, or spending a few minutes in silence can transform your inner world. These habits ground you. They make you stronger, not louder or busier, but steadier. One of the simplest, most effective ways to care for your body is movement. It doesn't have to be extreme. A walk in the fresh air, stretching your limbs, dancing to music you love. Anything that gets your blood flowing and your breath deeper. Movement wakes up your body and your spirit. Equally essential is nutrition. The food you eat is fuel for your brain as much as your body. Choosing whole, unprocessed, nutrient-rich foods isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. When you eat better, you feel better. You think more clearly. You respond more calmly. In your mind, it needs moments of stillness. In a noisy, reactive world, quiet time is not wasted time. Reflection, meditation, or even 5 minutes of intentional breathing. These moments give your mind space to reset. They help you process what matters and release what doesn't. They return you to yourself. Here's a practical approach to begin today. Each day, commit to one small act that nourishes your mind and one that nourishes your body. Maybe that's reading a few pages from an uplifting book. Maybe it's prepping a simple, healthy meal. Maybe it's 5 deep breaths before bed. These small rituals add up. Over time, they compound into a lifestyle that fuels your energy, your clarity, and your joy. Ask yourself honestly, am I treating my mind and body with the respect they deserve? If not, begin now. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You just need to start. Because here's the truth. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Caring for yourself isn't selfish. It's what makes everything else possible. It's what allows you to show up, not just for yourself, but for the people and passions that matter most. In the end, your mind and body are your most valuable tools. Nurture them, and they will carry you through every challenge with grace and strength. As we just explored, when you nourish your mind and body, you don't just protect your energy, you elevate your entire life. You build a strong inner foundation that equips you to face challenges with clarity, resilience, and grace. And from that grounded place, you don't merely survive, you thrive. That's when life shifts from something to manage into something to fully live. Now we arrive at the heart of it all. Conclusion. Letting go to make room for what truly matters. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about creating space for something greater, something more aligned with who you truly are becoming. It's the conscious choice to stop carrying what weighs you down so you can move forward with strength, intention, and peace. Whether it's outdated habits, painful relationships, limiting beliefs, or even old versions of yourself, when you release what no longer serves you, you begin to see clearly. You reclaim your energy. You rediscover your purpose. Throughout this episode, We've explored 12 transformative lessons that guide you toward this inner freedom, from learning emotional detachment and practicing gratitude, to nurturing your well-being and embracing adaptability. Each step is an invitation to return to what matters most, because the truth is, life is always changing. But by learning to let go with grace, not fear, you position yourself to grow through change rather than be broken by it. Why does this matter so deeply? Because clinging to the past, to unrealistic expectations, or to people who no longer align with your path leads only to stress, resistance, and quiet suffering. It traps you in a loop of trying to control what is beyond your reach. But when you let go, you create space for calm, for growth, for clarity. You stop reacting to life, and you begin living it with intention. So here's something to consider right now. What is one thing, just one small thing, you are ready to let go of today? It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be a lingering frustration, a self-doubt, a habit that chips away at your peace. Even the smallest act of release can create a ripple that shifts your day and your life. Letting go is not a single act. It's a lifelong practice. It takes patience, courage, and compassion for yourself and others. But with each intentional release, you make room for clarity, for connection, for joy. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Thank you for walking this journey with us. If this message spoke to something within you, take a quiet moment to reflect. And if it feels right, share it with someone who may need to hear it too. Together, let's build a community grounded in purpose, peace, and the freedom that comes from letting go. Until next time, stay grounded, stay intentional, and above all, continue releasing what no longer serves you, so you can make space for what truly matters.